Okay, so today is Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. That's not to say that it was bad, that's just something they do in the show. So this was the equivalent of Season 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as well as the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. Oof, 90s. But I guess just one of the things I liked and things that threw me off. I think the reason why I had this here is because I first heard it in the Ninja crossover special, is the battle theme. I thought at first it was the main theme, but it's actually the henshin theme of Kakuranger. It doesn't sound Japanese. It sounds like a Spanish bullfighter theme. Like, you wouldn't think it would be associated with ninjas, but it actually sounds really good. For the first half, had an announcer that would kind of jump in and explain what a yokai is, or a Japanese monster or demon. It's kind of a fun way to learn about Japanese yokai, especially as a foreigner who didn't grow up with those stories. But I do have something interesting to say about it later on. I think at this point, because it's the third Super Sentai that I was watching, so that puts us in January, or sorry, that puts this in February. Yeah, no, a year from a year ago from now. Felt more put together. It kind of expanded on certain twists. For instance, Tsuruhime, Ninja White, and her, like how her father was a part of the opposing side, and what that meant, and her character development and all that stuff. So, for instance, it felt more put together that way. Something interesting that I liked was that their home base was Nekomaru, or like a cat-like food truck thing, kind of like the cat bus in Totoro. And because it was a food truck, they would actually serve crepes. And I thought it was interesting because that was their home base, and it didn't feel like a home base. It didn't feel like a typical headquarters where they're just there to be briefed or to fight. Like this, it gave them a place to bond outside of the battlefield, which I thought was interesting and really fed into their bonds as characters and their character development. And that actually, I felt like added weight to when they eventually all embarked on their respective ninja quests, and they had to kind of say goodbye to each other in hopes that they'll each get what they needed to do done and meet again. Kind of onto the things that threw me off guard. Like I mentioned, there would be a narrator that would cut in and kind of explain what a yokai is, and I believe that form of storytelling in Japan is called rakugo. So I thought it was fine. The only weird thing is they stopped doing it halfway. They even said at the end of the first arc, they said, now begins the second half. So they distinctly split the season into two parts, but I don't really know why. Because they just kind of stopped doing the announcer thing. I think he still did the announcements in the beginning and the end, but he didn't cut in the middle of an episode the way he normally did. Although they did have this one documentary style episode in the middle of it, so that was kind of fun. But I don't know why they stopped doing it halfway. And then the yokai monsters would explain what they were on their own instead of having the announcer do it. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like they should have just kept doing it. I thought it was interesting that they made the American Ninja Jiraiya. So because before I even watched Kakuranger, I did watch Ninja, and there is an American ninja in that. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. They kind of had to play on their own stereotypes of what an American is. So the cowboy, although they did throw in some old images of 1980s or maybe 1990s Los Angeles, which is where I'm from, not 1980s but Los Angeles. So it's kind of fun that they connected it that way. I have to say, this being the 90s, all I have to say about Sasuke's style choices is damn, because I think he was wearing like jean shorts, but then I think he had leggings underneath that. So, but then he had like a flannel over on the top, and he always had a bandana. I don't know, the style, the fashion, the styles was definitely 90s in that case. I forgot to mention this for the parts that I liked, kind of going with how the monsters were based off yokai or Japanese monsters. They based all the characters off of I guess famous ninja in Japanese folklore, like Sasuke Sarutobi is supposed to be Sasuke, Saizo Seikai. So like kind of knowing that, all those references to Japanese folk tales that a lot of these kids, the writers, actors, and everybody in Super Sentai grew up with, or I'm not going to understand, or they're just going to go way over my head. So it's really rich in its lore and references. So I think I can appreciate that. My favorite episode isn't an episode. It's actually an arc. It's actually the Ninja Quest arc, where each character goes on their own journey to acquire a scroll that's supposed to help them in their fight against, the big bad. And they actually kind of adapted this in the season 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I'm not really sure how much I remember from season 3, other than they took on the ninja theming as well. But part of the reason why I liked this arc is it was engaging and it was interesting. One of the actresses from Zyuranger actually makes a cameo appearance, not as her previous character, but as, I think, the spirit of a butterfly. It's related to the scroll that Sasuke gets. And it was interesting because even though they're all separated, like, there was still a sense of that bond that each character has with each other. And I think that plays into the theme of this series, which I will get to in the Gokaiger tribute episode, when I get to Gokaiger. I mean, it also had Jiraiya Ninja Black. It had his I think it actually had like a 2-part episode, and it was pretty entertaining. It's kind of a classic revenge story. He came to Japan to find his father's killer. Turns out that his father's killer was his mentor, but then the mentor is actually a yokai. So it was like interconnected. So, that was fun to watch. I'm looking forward to when I can rewatch this again and kind of pick up on more, maybe Japanese lore, because even with something like Naruto picks up on a lot of Japanese lore too, like the Nine-Tailed Fox, and like the whole descendants of Ashura and the other guy, that's also rooted in Japanese lore. So I'm pretty interested to go back and see what I can find. It's fun seeing Sasuke as a newbie after seeing him in Ninja and being a teacher. And this is kind of the one where it kind of establishes that whenever Super Sentai does something Japanese, like it's themed in samurai or ninja or just Japanese culture, they do it extra. they go far. They take it another level because that's the stuff they grew up with. So it was like really fun, entertaining, deep and rich. So especially as a foreigner, it's like there's a lot I'm not going to pick up, but it's pretty fun to find out and learn about these things as I go along.